Hey, Bigpod, we're talking about the future. We're only for
Really?
this year. Yep, just this year.
Okay.
And just to let you know, everybody here has some form of gray in their shirt today. Hey guys, welcome to No Tucks Allowed. I am your host, Josh, and today I have brought along Bigpod from halfway across the world, and then who's not halfway across the world from me, we have brought in Matt from the Linux Cast. How's it going, Matt?
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
Doing
Not too
great.
bad. All right, so uh, in the event that you don't know who Matt is, he runs a YouTube channel called the Linux Cast. I don't know what he does there. I
Don't
hope you
worry,
can tell
neither
me
do
what.
I.
Don't
I
worry
don't
about.
know what I do either. I make videos about varying ranges of topics, usually around Linux.
Usually,
That's what I do.
that sounds pretty self-explanatory. Well,
Oh, if you
thankfully
ask Waffles, I make note-taking videos.
that is true. Well, just to let you know, we're not allowed to talk about tucks here because this show is called No Tucks Allowed.
Okay, can I pause there? You invited someone with the name Linux Cast in the name of their channel, and we can't talk about Tux.
Yes, we
Okay.
can't talk about tucks. We can talk about Linux, but we can't talk about tucks.
Okay. All right.
Welcome to the best podcast
I
in
should
the
have.
world.
I should have asked about the rules before we started recording.
Well, sorry. So, anyways, uh, it's like our third episode of the year.
Third, yes, third.
Yeah, third.
Because the
Well,
last one you weren't here.
yes, I wasn't here because crap happened. So, anyways, 2025, right? I'm not done with this yet because for one thing, news articles are running really slow, and there's three really big topics that are going on right now that I personally just don't want to talk about.
Neither do I.
Yeah. So we're going to continue talking about like what's coming in 2025. This isn't speculation. This is stuff that's actually been announced, and we're looking forward to. Because we need to be positive here every now and then. And Big Pod,
What?
I know that you're so excited about this that you spun up a VM and you were attempting to live inside this for a little bit.
Yeah.
But what's that Cosmic Desktop looking like so far? Like surprisingly good?
Pretty okay. I would personally I still like no more, but it's shaping up to be a pretty good system. There are some issues I have, but most of those I can deal with.
Yeah, and I know Matt, you're like big on like trying out like all these tiling window managers and stuff like that, and I know that Cosmic supports tiling. It supports theming via configuration file, so you can script it. So, are you looking forward to Cosmic?
Kinda. I think that I have my reservations simply because it's
New.
based on what it was before. Like it's gonna basically look like GNOME, but they've started over but made it look the same. So I don't know. I have my reservations about it, but we'll see.
The best look it can be.
Have you? There's never been a desktop environment that had a 1.0 release that was good, like out of the box.
Yes, but
Like
at least
so.
Cosmic looks half alright, unlike KDE.
Katie looks. You're just judgmental.
I hate KDE.
Well,
There
I
is
do
supposed to
have.
be a video on it on my channel, but I haven't yet made it.
Well, there is something to say about like the default settings where GNOME just clearly does look better.
Yeah. And as you all know, in my opinion, default matter absolutely.
Unless you mention that on Reddit, and then everybody says, "But you can change it in the configuration." Like, oh,
Does-
Pod,
Doesn't
are you one of
matter.
those crazy people who don't change their wallpaper?
Yes. I'm still on default wallpaper.
could be worse. Bigpod could be like me, where I've literally used the same wallpaper for the past 10 years.
Man,
I change my wallpaper 3 or 4 times a day
why?
because I want to. The only justification you have for not changing a wallpaper is if it's the Groovy Gorilla wallpaper, in which case you have the right wallpaper.
Well,
you can keep that around for a while.
I'm gonna tell you why I don't change the wallpaper. Because I literally don't care and see my I don't see my wallpaper besides the time I turn on my computer and the time I turn on my computer. Or in my case, VM. Like, if I probably should just set up so it starts Windows by startup, because that's far more useful than having it open to a wallpaper.
Did you just say Windows?
Yes, Windows as in multiple window, as in.
But don't you use
things
Wayland?
happen. Well,
if you use Wayland, Windows don't exist. They're called clients.
Well, whatever. It's a common nomenclature. We all know what the hell we're talking about.
Okay, so in the event that the listeners doesn't know, Cosmic is a desktop environment that System76, a company that maintains that sells hardware as well as the developers behind like Pop! OS are making.
Yes.
And they've been working on this for some time, but really have been like pushing like the announcements just the past 3 months alone. It's real, and to my understanding, it's actually surprisingly usable today.
Yeah.
Like it's very manageable. Like you can, it's almost in like that daily driver status, but not quite like wife approval status moment right now. To my understanding,
there are some bugs. There are some memory leaks, which is a whole other topic we could go into. Because people are going crazy because there are memory leaks in Rust.
Oh no!
Despite not knowing that Rust doesn't prevent memory leaks, because memory leaks are memory safe. It's one of the safest memory operations you can do. Forget that the variable is there. That's the safest operation you can do.
Yeah. So, anyways, they're working on this. It is Wayland only. So there is no X11 session for this.
Yes.
Which means that I'm fine with this, because that means that when I log into my desktop environment, I'm not accidentally logging into the X11 version of my Intel Arc GPU.
Yes. Or
because that is still hot garbage. In fact, as far as I can tell, the A770 works way better than the B580 on X11 compared to, because we're on the A770, I'm getting like roughly 5 FPS, or at least it feels like it. The A580 is quite literally unusable.
Or in my use case, my monitor or my touchscreen display on a laptop, if I have my monitor plugged in, actually knows that I'm tapping my laptop display, not some fake display that is combination of both of them, because that's what happens on X11.
Yeah. Now,
I hate it.
Matt, I know that you're probably using like Qtile right now on an X11 session. No, you're not. Oh,
no, I'm on Plasma Wayland right at the moment. I had to do a reinstall yesterday. Remember? So I haven't got everything set up yet. So
right.
I'm still in Wayland.
Okay. So you're still on Wayland. What are the chances you're going to be moving back to a Wayland compositor full time again this year? Because I know that you are messing around with Hyperland and Sway last year.
Probably 0. Now it doesn't mean I won't try them, but there's the ones that I like to use, like Hyperland, for example. It's always so buggy that, like, sometimes it works fine, and then Vaxtree will decide, I need to change something, and everything breaks, which is approximately once a month, which he does that. So that bugs me. The Wayland stuff on like GNOME and Plasma is fine, but every once in a while, like Plasma will crash for no apparent reason. But
that's Plasma.
And you get that on XOR.
Well, that's Plasma.
And I can't use GNOME because it's utter garbage, and there's no productivity there to be had. So
no, it's only productivity to be had. There is no productivity in Plasma or any of the compilator/window managers.
Well, funny thing is, I have a GNOME video that's still very relevant on how to use GNOME today. Maybe you should
I
give
can
that a
use
watch.
GNOME
Matt.
just fine. I can be productive on GNOME, and I think the design of the applications on GNOME is better than KDE. I don't think you can argue that. My issue with GNOME really lies in the fact that I just don't care for that workflow as much. I don't care for the workflow of Plasma either. I'm a window manager guy. I use key bindings, and yes, you can use key bindings in both of those too, but it's not the same. Give me a configuration file. I'm a nerd.
Okay. So, you haven't tried Enlightenment. I can tell.
Oh, ages ago, but it was the fork. What is that one on Bodhi Linux? Is that
Moksha.
Moksha.
Moksha? Yeah.
Yeah.
I used that for a little while. The themes in that were fucking. Oh, do you guys swear on this? I didn't even ask.
Go ahead and swear. We swear.
All right. The themes on that were atrocious. They're like they weren't you wouldn't even use them in the 90s. They were that bad. They're just really bad. So yeah, that was ages ago.
I think it's been a while since I looked at Bodhi, but I think Bodhi's actually kind of a dead project nowadays because I don't think that they've done any point releases, and they haven't released a 2404 ISO yet. I think they're still in a 2204.
Interesting.
So I don't know what the Bodhi Linux project looks like nowadays, but I know that Enlightenment's still moving forward.
Yeah.
So
Well, the Budgie's still planning on using the libraries or whatever for their new whatever. Or they changed that again.
They haven't said since the last announcement.
Those guys are horrible. They can't decide. They couldn't make up their mind if they had their life depended on it.
Yeah,
That's
I would
hilarious.
assume that they're still using the FL toolkit. At least I would assume that. It's been a minute since I looked at like their Git repos, but you know I watched like their Matrix channel and they are actively talking in there. So there's still some people working somewhere on there. I just don't know what they're working on because I don't understand what they're
They
talking
should
about.
just keep the thing they're using now.
They're using GTK now.
Yes.
Let me ask you guys this question: which do you think will come out first, Budgie 11 or the 1.0 version of Cosmic?
I'll say
The
Budgie
answer
11.
is- You think so?
I think so. Because they've already got like beta builds of it. And but it's not using their compositor yet. They're still working on that. But they have Budgie 11 running on like LabWC. And to my understanding, it's working. Because like the Budgie panel and all that works. They just need to figure out if like they need to be moving forward with LabWC or if they're going to be going forward with their own compositor, which honestly I think that they should just go with LabWC because LabWC is actually a pretty cool project.
I don't trust it. You know, I started using Linux in 2017 full time, and in 2017 they were talking about Budgie 11.
Yeah.
It is now 2024. It still isn't out yet.
They've been on Budgie
So-
10 for a while.
a long while.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't trust it. Not that I trust the System 76 guys more, but at least they seem to have a plan for where they're going. You know, and it's just a matter of getting there. But the Budgie guys are going to just change their mind before they get there. So sorry.
Yeah, but I do think that Cosmic the Cosmic 1.0 release is going to be pretty big. Because the big benefit that Cosmic actually has is that they're bringing more voices into the Wayland protocol space. And the more non-gnome voices we have in that space, the better.
That's a good point.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've been reading like these Wayland protocol discussions, and there's like 50 like gnome guys in there dogpiling on like the one guy. And it's like, dude, I know that gnome is allowed to have opinions, but keep that crap in gnome and not Wayland, please. It's like if gnome doesn't want to support something, gnome doesn't have to support something. That doesn't mean that if gnome doesn't want something, nobody gets to have the thing. Please. Or at least that's what it seems like sometimes. I know it's gotten a lot better nowadays. But just bringing like more spaces into voting for protocols. And then I know that they're not working with like WL-Roots, they're using Smithy, so that's an extra voice as well, because now the developer the Smithy compositor library gets to have a voice as well. And I don't think he actually works for System 76. I think he's still doing that freelance. No, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's cool to see like that project space become a little bit more active, because I've seen like multiple people complaining about like how WL Roots is like managing things, which if you're using standalone compositors on Wayland, they're most likely WL Roots based. And WL Roots is not a very fast-moving project. In fact, it's gotten to the point where like Vaxry, the guy behind Hyperland, decided he's just going to fork WL Roots and make his own version of it.
So let me ask you guys a question. When you go back to what you were saying earlier, Josh, about the whole Wayland only thing, do you think that, because it's pretty well known that while NVIDIA has gotten better in terms of Wayland support, it's still not as stable as you'd want on a piece of hardware that you're going to sell for thousands of dollars, probably. Do you think that there will be because they are only doing Wayland on Cosmic, do you think that they will ship on like a Xorg version of GNOME or something alongside that for a backup, or something that would actually work if Wayland doesn't work on a piece of hardware?
I think, well, System 76, when you buy hardware from System 76, you have two options for an operating system. You can either get Pop! OS or Ubuntu. They will probably just disable Pop! OS for the NVIDIA users if they're taking it that seriously, or they might just publish it and sell it anyway. And they'll still like have the way NVIDIA enabled on for the Wayland session on the Cosmic desktop. I don't think that they're going to do like a GNOME fallback session. They'll probably have like a blog post guide somewhere for like installing GNOME on Pop! OS.
Also remember that NVIDIA works on Wayland just fine.
I mean, it's not like a perfectly seamless experience, but it's definitely a lot better than what a lot of people give it credit for.
It's miles and way better than it was a couple of years ago, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not if you have the hardware of both AMD and NVIDIA and you can compare them side by side, then you can tell the difference.
Yeah, there is a difference. But then again, I don't have a modern day NVIDIA GPU. I have like this random 980 that I got, which they don't even publish a compatible driver for now, if I remember right.
I have a 4070 Ti, and it is fine, but most of my problems I don't think are Wayland related. More OpenSUSE won't ship a more like a recent version of the NVIDIA drivers. So,
well, it takes time to like test that kind of thing. So I can probably understand why OpenSUSE hasn't shipped like what is it, the 555 driver?
They're 2 versions behind.
They're 2 versions behind.
Yeah, and the reason why what they told me was that the guy who maintains it does that because of some channel nonsense that they're subscribed to. So they're subscribed to the stable channel. So, and the most recent version is never the stable version. So you can get the most recent version, but you have to download it from NVIDIA itself and run basically the Fedora RPM package, and then move some things around. It's messy.
I mean, you can just download the NVIDIA install script and then just /run install.
Or you can use a better distro.
Or that. But Matt's on a challenge.
I wouldn't. There is no better distro. It's still good. Just because it has flaws doesn't mean that it's not good.
It's so good. I installed like a different version of it.
Josh, you always have issues, man.
Well, to be fair, this has like been the most stable computing experience that I've ever had because my computer's been turned off for a whole week. So, anyways, we could probably talk about like Wayland all day, but let's talk about like a distro release because people have been calling for this for a while, and there's some very popular media people that are calling for this as well, but and it's even been announced by Valve. we're getting the SteamOS general release. Now that is coming. Now, there's two possibilities for this, right? For one thing, there are some very real issues with SteamOS from like a desktop usage application. So, does Valve release this and tagline it as an appliance device only? Or do they just publish it as a distro for like generic use? Well, that's what we need to figure out first. But of course, Bigpod,
I think
this is an immutable distro, and I know that
Yes.
you're a big fan of the immutable distros.
Yes.
What is Valve doing wrong with SteamOS right now?
What's Valve doing wrong?
Well, besides it using an Arch base.
I don't think they're doing
Besides that.
anything wrong. I think the idea that they should make a general release is wrong. I think it should be only for their first party hardware and certified third party hardware, and let the rest of the community handle general desktop and general laptop audience.
That sounds very Apple-like.
That sounds like smart idea, because now go just completely from PR standpoint. Of course, you can install it if you want. You shouldn't, because you have problems, but you can. But from general PR problem, like PR standpoint, if any mistake happens on any of hardware you do not like have support for, it's Valve on the line. Valve are the bad guys. If that's just for them, like, and that will hurt the Linux gaming movement, and in general, it is not good, because they're supposed to be like, they are hailed as a great savior by basically everybody. That's not a good idea in the long run, because problems will be with something like, let's say you put an NVIDIA card into your system, and your system and your SteamOS crashes, and it's supposed to work on any hardware. That's a bad thing.
I don't think it's going to work on any hardware. I think okay, so to this day, the only operating system outside of SteamOS that Valve supports is Ubuntu. It's not right on their website.
Yes.
You can go there. That's what they say is Ubuntu only, right? So I think when they release this thing, it's going to have very specific hardware requirements explicitly stated, like probably AMD only, probably you have to have a certain amount of RAM and all this stuff. Probably line by line.
That's not what they've been saying. Whenever they said release, they said for any. They basically said that it will work on any hardware. From what I've read, I could be wrong. That's my understanding of what they were saying in the past. But in recent time, I haven't actually found any indication that, like in the last half a year, that they actually said they're gonna be releasing it on any hardware, even for outside of certified hardware, like we will see Legion Go S with SteamOS. I think that's the proper route to go, to have certified hardware, to have makers that work with you and create builds specific for the device. And if they want to have like a general system, they should work with somebody already established in the industry that can and this is gonna sound very, very horrible, shoulder the blame if something goes wrong. Whether it be Bassite, whether it be Nobara, whether it be Holice, or whether it be Chimera, it doesn't matter. Some community distro, not SteamOS itself. SteamOS should be an appliance system.
I'm actually in somewhat of an agreement with you. I don't think that Valve should actually. I was surprised to hear that they even had like a KDE desktop running on the Steam Deck when they first announced that.
That
Like,
makes
why?
sense. That makes sense if you want to run something like Heroic Launcher or something, because it's supposed to be a versatile gaming device. unlike, let's say, for example, Switch.
Yep.
That's kind of the point.
But Matt, I know that you have a Steam Deck, or at least I remember hearing that you've had one.
I do have one.
Have
yep.
you attempted to use like the desktop session at all?
Once.
Once?
Exactly once. But mostly, okay, so I have multiple computers. If I'm going to use a computer, I'm just going to...
Yeah.
be okay if, like, if you don't have a computer and you plug that in as like a docking thing or whatever, it'd be fine. But for me, Steam, the big picture mode basically is what they use for Steam is just what I use, and that's what I do. So it was fine, but using it just on it's like, remember the Pixel 7? It was like the 7-inch Google tablet or whatever. It wasn't the Pixel.
Oh, the Nexus.
The Nexus, yes.
The Nexus 7, yeah, that was right. It'd be like using full-blown plasma on that screen.
Why not?
Very small.
Why not?
The real question is why, not why. Why not? It's and I mean, just 5 minutes ago, Bigpod, you were talking about how badly plasma was designed. Imagine that on a 7-inch screen.
Well,
It's not great.
if there is one thing they do relatively well, it's they are relatively good at providing you with everything you need to run a touchscreen. Not that you should, because again, it's trash tier software, but at least they provide you with bigger buttons.
Oh no, they made the panel bigger.
On some things, go into like Dolphin or whatever and try to move things around. Moving a panel around, like you can, because you can. It's still full blown Dolphin. You can move panels around in Dolphin all you want, and then having to do it with your finger, not great. Now, I don't think they're meant to do it that way. Like, you know, that's not
Yes.
something you're meant to do, right?
No,
But-
you just plug a USB-C dock into it, and then
But-
just use a normal keyboard and mouse.
Well,
Then I'm just going to use a computer.
Yeah.
I have one. So
yes, you have one.
it was
but not
basically
everybody.
useless for me. Yeah, for people who don't have like a regular computer, or someone like, if you wanted like a big screen mode for like a TV, like if you want to use it for an HTPC or something like that, that'd be a good idea. I don't know how well it would work to drive like 4K off from it, but I'm assuming it would work okay.
What about, for example, since this is again like for what you use Steam Deck, if you're on the go, just opening a browser.
I have a phone for that. I don't know. I don't know. It's just not a computer for me. It'd be fine, but also, I'm a really weird gamer, guys. That thing has set in it's been for months on end, and then the minute I turn it on, it has to do an update. It has to download all the updates for every game,
Mm-hmm.
and by the time it does that, I'm just not ready to use. I'm not interested in using it anymore. So I don't use it very often. So I'm like the last Steam Deck user you should really ever talk to about using the Steam Deck, because I don't actually use it. It sits down there in its case until I decide I'm going to do all the updates, and then I put it back in its case, and I just repeat that cycle over and over again.
That sounds kind of like what I do with games.
The real question, though, is would you guys have... Are you guys big enough gamers to actually install this on like an actual computer when it comes out, like the ISO? Do you think? I mean, let's just say it comes out, it doesn't do the appliance thing like you're saying it should do. Will you install the ISO on a computer to try it out or see how it games?
So, my use case for that is actually pretty interesting. I've been thinking about building like a Steam machine just to have connected to my TV. That way, you know, I don't have to sit here at the computer, because I do way too much at this computer as it is. So I'm actually kind of like half tempted to if they release this, I might just install that on that system when I actually get around to doing that. That said, I've also been messing around with like the game streaming solutions like Sunlight and Moonlight. So it's just like, do I really need like to have a powerful gaming computer, a second one, just to run that? So and I know that that might not be like a very good use case for SteamOS, is for like the game streaming solutions, which I know that you can do the Steam Remote Play over it. So I might tinker with that, but it's also Arch Linux based, and I have nothing but issues with Arch Linux. I have more issues with Arch Linux than any other distro I've ever used. Not because I'm stupid, but because just like random things break, and then when I go to make the bug reports, they tell me that they're not problems.
Pac-Man sees Josh coming and says, "Oh no!" Puts up the 404 sign.
Puts up the 404 sign, and then the package maintainer literally tells me to get better internet. Okay, so obviously, like, it is going to be something to watch, though. Like, if they come out with it, because like I know that right now SteamOS ships without cups, so you can't get a functioning printer on it. So if they enable cups, then we'll know if they're actually looking to see if like this is actually going to be like something that we can use. It's just a thing that we'll have to watch for the future. But in the meantime, in October this year, Windows 10 is going to reach the end of life. Thus, it is the year of the Linux desktop. All these people are going to not buy new computers. They're just going to install Linux, right?
No. Most of them
No.
won't even buy a new computer. Just keep running Windows 10 or click the next until it pops up a new desktop.
Well, then Microsoft doesn't get pushy about upgrading for a while.
Yeah.
Like I think with Windows 8 or whatever it was, they let you use that for a full year after. In Windows 7, even longer before they start getting really truly pushy about it. So
Yeah, but even then, that was just a pop-up that showed up on Windows 7. It wasn't until like the Windows 8 to 10 transition where they just did the update for you.
Yeah.
Because I remember they did that for a little bit. And then, but do we expect to see like a growth in usage of like the Linux market share? Because last I checked, we were like north of 4%.
Yeah.
Do we see that number go higher? Do we hit the magical 5%?
Not because of Windows 10 AOL.
You don't think so?
No. There
Is
may
it
be few gamers that will switch, but no long shot, like no big swing numbers.
it will have to be paired with a significant improvement in anti-cheat software from Valve. If Valve can solve the anti-cheat stuff and get some of the bigger games actually running on Linux around the same time.
Problem isn't anti-cheat. Problem is how much you can do with anti-cheat on Linux and developers actually enabling anti-cheat on Linux, because all anti-cheat actually, like all modern anti-cheat, works on Linux. Except you need a developer to basically change a line of code to allow Linux support. Problem is they don't want to allow Linux support because they believe that on Linux there is more rampant cheating because anti-cheat is less effective.
That, and it's just easier to automate things on Linux compared to Windows in some cases. You know, like automated keystrokes with just an Xword configuration.
Yeah, but not really. That's not actually that of a thing. The problem is that on all that would be easily detectable if anti-cheat could run at the same level as it can on Windows. So that's very deep kernel level, because then it has view of everything that happens above it in stack.
Yeah, but that's concerning because that would basically mean that games would almost require root access to your system.
They would have the anti-cheat, not games, but the anti-cheat, which is a separate component, would have to have a kernel driver. Yes.
Here's a proposition, and this is the stupidest thing I've ever said in my life, but systemd anti-cheat.
Wouldn't help.
Okay.
Wouldn't help because it's still too high in the stack for quite a bit of cheats.
I can see it now. League of Legends, the native Linux package comes
Wouldn't help.
with a kernel with a DKMS module for their
Yes,
anti-cheat.
that would help. That would help. Yes.
Because we love DKMS modules. They're beautiful. They're great.
AK mod package.
Yeah. So obviously, like, I don't think that we're going to fix like the kernel level anti-cheats, but stuff like your easy anti-cheat, the stuff that's not necessarily like kernel level, but just like a couple steps above that.
Hmm.
There's still some cases where like that's not working.
Most of those work with that a few steps above. Most of those, because they don't, even the guys who know what is happening. But also many of those actually work inside the virtual environment that is Proton.
Yeah, your audio cut that out there for a second, Bigpod. I hope that actually recorded.
It did.
Okay. So, anyways, I think we're going to get some like more Proton improvements to just make this to more or less fake like more a Windows API or something like that, like an anti-cheat might be using, and then it just becomes into a big rat race between like anti-cheat software and Proton.
Problem is there is no API that they use.
Oh,
each anti-cheat literally has their own kernel level driver.
Well, this is how little I know of Windows being a Linux guy.
You know, the last year there was this huge problem with this huge security firm called CrowdStrike.
Yeah.
Because they have this kernel driver that checks the for any kind of problems, right?
Yep.
Security problems. They're basically using the same principles for anti-cheat. Actually, they use the same principles literally. Like that's why they use the same reason. Same reason why you need to be in kernel, because anything above can be seen by the kernel driver, because only things above it in stack can be viewed by a program. So, for example, anything that runs if systemd had its own anti-cheat, only anything that happens after systemd would be seen. So, what would be most proper would be if we had hardware anti-cheat already built into our motherboards.
TPM, like stuff like that.
Or
Yes.
maybe we just bring back human moderation.
Doesn't help.
No?
Because
Okay.
there's a class of cheats that literally use a USB key. Because actually a USB key, it's a Bluetooth connection to another computer, which then simulates HID inputs based on camera that it has trained directly at the monitor that's playing the game. Welcome to the highest level of cheating, using hardware cheats. That's the problem.
Okay.
But that's the most extreme. That is where hardware anti-cheat is needed. But there are some that are like at a file level. There are some that like at a really low level, like not just automating key presses, but pressing one key and doing 6 keys, like program doing key mouse movement and stuff like that. That's all some stuff that can be detected using kernel level anti-cheat. It's a arms race of an extreme proportion, and I get developers why they want them to have like as cheatless experience as possible, because at the end of the day, that's if they have cheaters, it will look bad on them.
Yeah, it's just a really sad situation overall.
Yeah.
Now we've seen these come out for like Windows last year, the Qualcomm Snapdragon laptops.
Yep.
And I know that like System 76 has been talking about making their own laptop, and it very possibly being ARM, because that's a hot new thing. What are the chances we see a Linux ARM laptop? Like, not like your cheap ones like the Pinebook, but like a legitimately decent model. It doesn't have to be good. It has to be like decent at least. I would say.
Yes, that would be good because then we would have a canonical laptop to port to Linux for other distros. Because oh god, is it stupid hard to port an ARM system to Linux? It's headache inducing because it's almost as complex as taking just replacing one piece of hardware. You have to have a different kernel. Welcome to ARM world and device trees.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, I think that if one does come out, I would probably buy it.
If one does come out, we would be me and Josh would be very appreciative if you send us review samples, and we would do a great review that would be 100% truthful, and we would go with our whole journalistic practice of telling only the truth, because we're at one point we're gonna be journalists.
At some point.
Alright, so, guys, this is actually confirmed to happen. Tuxedo has announced an ARM laptop with the Qualcomm X Elite SoC on a chip. It doesn't have a release date, so I don't know if it will come out this year or not.
Does either of you know anybody at Tuxedo we could mail for a few review samples?
But they actually have a picture of it, actually. So
I did exchange emails with a Tuxedo developer at one point.
They follow me on Mastodon.
Because I was working on like a bug report.
Same goes for you listeners and viewers. If you have any kind of contacts, it would be highly appreciated if you forward them to me after, of course, asking them for the permission to do so.
Of course, don't just
don't just send personal contacts to random people on the internet because they asked.
Yeah, that said, I am excited for like the like a non-x86 laptop space. Like I don't know if I want it to necessarily be ARM, but it's nice to see like these hardware battles come around again, because I remember like when I was first learning about computers, learning about like these SPARC systems versus Intel x86 versus it was SPARC x86, MIPS, and PowerPC were like generally competing for like desktop market share.
Then you had on servers you also had Itanium.
Yeah, Itanium was coming out, and
the big iron from IBM, whatever it was called, like Z systems.
And I'm certain that there's like a kernel developer or like somebody that works in like these low level languages all day, and he's just like, Josh, I don't want that to happen. I enjoyed the Intel x86 standard. I want more of that.
I as a user, I want x86 to stay. Yes, a bit more power usage. That can be solved by redoing the architecture a bit.
I mean, my desktop system, if I don't have the graphics card plugged in, I measured it today. It idles at 14 watts.
Yes.
And that's like an Intel i5. That's a reasonably powerful desktop system.
Yes. I can get on my laptop 24 hours of lifetime, of battery time.
Yeah.
While doing things. That said, not a problem.
One thing I appreciate is that what I have here in my hands is a Pinebook Pro. Unfortunately, it's an unbranded laptop for you video viewers, so it's basically just a black rectangle. But it's a Pinebook Pro that I have done several modifications for. Like installing an NVMe drive, installing a second battery, because there's enough room in there you can run 2 batteries, and I can get like 36 hours of battery life out of it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So that's particularly why like I'm invested in like ARM, because I don't care for like my laptop to be a high performing computer. I just want it to work, because when I'm not home and I want access to a computer, most of my time spent on the computer is not doing anything like physically demanding, like I know that I'm a Gen 2 user, but I don't really care how long it takes to compile something. So it's like I don't need to compile like the kernel in 6.5 minutes on a laptop.
I write
But
code
yeah,
all day, every day.
yeah.
That's not a
So
demanding task.
no, it's not because you're making use of like a remote build service or anything. You're not
Yes.
like building that code directly on the computer. I mean, you can if you really want to, but you don't necessarily have to.
And also, most people who write software don't have major build jobs of hours.
Yeah,
Let's be honest. You can wait.
it's
Okay.
maybe enough time to go refill your cup of coffee or use the bathroom.
Yeah. or if you do it often, you have time to make a move in chess or play a move on your Hearthstone Battlegrounds, or make a move in Baldur's Gate 3.
Unless you're me and I'm reading my spells, which I still do. So,
Really?
Matt, if a sponsorship offer comes out offering you an ARM laptop, would you first of all, would you take the sponsorship, and would you actually attempt to daily drive the laptop?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
With the qualification, it's not from Pine because they don't make anything that's good. Seriously, their stuff is terrible. So, but sure. I mean, I think that Linux has been around long enough on ARM that it would run fairly decently if the laptop maker themselves have put some effort into it. So, like Raspberry and Raspberry Pi OS have been around for what, 20 years? 10,
it certainly
15
feels
years?
like it.
So I mean, it's been around for a long time. So it's not as if Linux on ARM is new. So I think that it would be at least somewhat usable. So yeah, sure. It's not gonna. Just everybody listening, send me one. I'd happily do that. Sure. Especially if it's System 76. Yeah.
And
I
I
want one of
think
their stuff so bad.
and I think Josh and I are of equal mind, right? We would
I mean,
be
I would
happy to
definitely
daily
use one.
drive.
I mean,
Especially if
there was
it's
a point in
free.
time where I ran off and I spent like $200 on Pine 64 hardware. Just to see like I never used like ARM systems like these before, so I went out and I bought a bunch of their hardware and attempted to daily drive using daily drive ARM. Well, like Matt said, Pine 64 products are not necessarily like great. My biggest complaint about like the Pine phone in general is that it uses an eMMC storage. It's not a SATA connection, so it's slow.
Well, okay, and I said a lot of positive things about Plasma earlier, but the Plasma Mobile is not good, at all. Like, it very much feels like alpha software now. GNOME Mobile's not much better, but it is better. They've done a much better job on responsive UI and things actually, loading, and the camera will actually open. So yeah, it had some major. So the best piece of Pine software hardware that I've ever bought, I don't know if you guys can see this, is this thing here. It's basically like a
Mini PC.
power supply. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No.
It was like $20. It actually works, but you know what this thing is? It doesn't have any software. It's 100% hardware box. Because they couldn't mess that up, or at least I don't think they could. It worked fine. Even has wireless charging. It works pretty good.
I didn't know that's for wireless charging. Okay.
Yeah, it's got a little wireless charging there on the top.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's actually kind of cool.
Well,
Yeah.
on my side, I personally don't really have a problem with any laptop as long as it's A, thin and light, B, has integrated GPU, and C, is somewhat speedy, so it does actually work.
Yeah. That's I don't know if I care about like the dedicated GPU, but if it works, that's cool.
Bigpod's line in the sand is, does it work? If it does, I want it. It's good. Thanks.
Basically, my laptop needs has gotten so low in the last few months because at the end of the day, if I need anything more than it works, it has a browser and has hardware. I can use any of my VMs because I have that, and so that's why I need hardware and hardware decoding. That's all I need really. Hardware decode plus that it has the Steam light, so I can put it in a backpack because well, I carry my laptop with me when I go cycling, and that's about it. Because for a reason is I go sit in a bar, and I am on my laptop while I drink mostly tea and stuff like that, and then I go back on the bike. That's a bicycle, the one you have to work to get to
Yep.
drive, and then I go back home. Help.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. And then Matt, I know that you mentioned this, but GIMP 3.0, it's coming. I know Bigpod, you like your Adobe Illustrator. I think is like their
Photoshop.
GIMP alternative. Photoshop. Yeah, Photoshop. Yeah, I know you like their Photoshop, but you can at least have some appreciation for like how much the GIMP project has actually done. It is still a solid editor. It might not be like the best one out there, but the fact that it's available, it works on Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it's completely free, and it still supports like 95% of the features of Photoshop. I still think that's a pretty solid deal.
Die-hard Photoshop users would tell you that it's not anywhere close to 95%.
Yeah,
But
and usability
I'm-
of it is, let's just say, not great.
But if you're not a hardcore video photographer or designer, you don't need 95% of what Photoshop actually does.
Yes, but at the end of the day, good user experience matters, and that's exactly what GIMP generally lacks. Good
It's
user
an open source
experience.
project. So it gets for me, it gets a mulligan on that kind of stuff. As long as it works. I mean, for you need a laptop that works. For me, as long as I can get in there and make a thumbnail and have some key bindings to get around to do it, it works fine. But in terms of 3.0, I'm reluctantly optimistic that it will come out this year. So they're on release candidate 2. If it doesn't come out this year, it's never coming out.
That is true.
I mean, they've been working. I mean, they've been on version 2 since like 2008 or something, some crazy year like that.
GIMP 2 came out generally like the same time GTK 2 did, if I remember right.
Long time, like
Yeah, long time.
serious long time.
They should probably go and just do GNOME 3, GTK 3 release GTK 3 version, and just start working on GTK 5 version.
Oh, then yeah, don't count on GTK 4 ever. I wouldn't think, but there are just a few features that I'm looking forward to. Things like being able to select multiple layers and move them around and resize them. That's going to be like groundbreaking. The thing that I was looking forward to the most, which is the stupidest thing, right, is the shape tool. Not going to be there at launch. It's going to be in 3.1. Like, you gotta be kidding me. So sometime in 2045, we'll be getting a shape tool, and by that time, Photoshop will be in the web browser, and we'll just use that instead.
Photoshop is already in the web browser, just not as capable as the desktop version.
Yeah, he's saying that we'll get full Photoshop in the web browser.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which they probably could do if they actually tried.
I'm still not paying a subscription for anything Adobe. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Ever.
I am. So you can find right below me the Patreon link where you can give us some money so we can pay for this sort of crap.
That is
also,
true.
Also, Josh has to pay for server.
Yeah. So we have actually gotten some donations for Patreon. I haven't taken a payout yet, but when you donate to our podcast, you got to remember that we're a very small production, and we're not using like the easy platforms to like host a podcast, because the biggest thing that we have is that we are self-hosting like the entire stack except for like our video feed. Like there is a server that you go to when you go to tuckspace.com. That server manages the podcast feed. It even handles the distribution of the feed to like all these third-party distributors. You know, like your Google Podcasts or YouTube Podcasts, whatever the hell they feel like calling it these days. It's all the same thing. Your Spotify's, your iTunes, that they're all pulling from our central feed. And the big thing that provides us is that provides us control over how the feed is handled. And we can post basically whatever content we want on there, and we don't have to worry about like the episode disappearing. I mean, because there's always going to be that
that's another problem entirely.
Yeah, that's another issue. But of course, as the show grows, and yes, the show is growing. Like I look at our audience numbers, and you know they grow by the episode. Eventually, we're going to get that bill from like our VPS provider that goes like, "Hey, there's a lot of traffic coming through here. We need some more money out of you."
Yeah,
that's coming. That's coming. And you know, by donating to us on the Patreon, you're helping us hedge for like the day that actually comes. And Matt, I know that you manage the Linux Cast. It's definitely a much larger show than what we have to deal with, and I know that it's not an easy thing to like move from like one service central feed host to another.
Yeah, I did that from Anchor when Spotify went, and now I'm on Fireside. I'm using it now. And yeah, it's a paid service.
Yeah.
So
well, if you ever wanna give some money to actually friends, I think it could be arranged for me to manage the hardware and software side of things for you. well, I have to grow the business of. We still don't know how we're gonna call the business, but we're gonna call it something.
We'll figure that out when the day comes around. But also, when you subscribe to us on Patreon, we'll give you a link to a specialized feed as well. This feed's going to get you a couple things. First of all, it's going to get you a higher bitrate audio, because I know that there's an audio file or two that listen to our podcast, and they would appreciate that. You will also get access to like supplemental bits too. So sometimes I'll record like an entire pre-show that might go on for longer than the show, or even a post-show, or every now and then Bigpod or I will just randomly post like something and just throw it in there.
Yeah.
So that's what you'll get out of that feed, and it's a bit of a manual process right now to get that set up, but eventually that'll get like handily automated, because Patreon has a wonderful API that you can make use of.
And pretty much, Bigpod is supposed to be a programmer.
Yeah, he's supposed to be, but he's got the ADD thing going on right now. But also, if for some reason we said something that you don't agree with, we have this universal thing called an email address you can send an email to. That is not self-hosted, because we're not willing to go that far, but we do have AWS handle that for us.
Yes,
but. You can send us an email to contact@tuckspace.com, and that will bounce an email straight to Bigpod and myself. And if for some reason you need to shout at Matt, how do they reach you, Matt?
Oh, I'm on Mastodon at the Linux Cast, or email at thelinuxcast.org was probably the best way.
That works.
Yeah. Also, I would like to say that I'm now a proud member of the No Tux Allowed Patron Club.
Yeah, I saw that email coming. Thank you, sir.
Well,
you guys should put the link on your channel instead of just in the video description.
Probably should.
Well, you should receive an email from Tugspace anytime when I manage to get it to send you an email.
Yeah, so
podcasts.
And of course, if you want to shout at Bigpod or myself directly, because sometimes you just don't want to shout at either one of us. You want to shout at us directly because Bigpod said something smart that that Josh is not going to understand. So you want to talk with Bigpod, or you want to talk to Josh because you don't want that Bigpod guy to inject his opinion. We have these links right here. These are our Federation IDs. So for like this is for like your Mastodon, your threads, and whatever services enable ActivityPub Federation eventually. You can send us a contact off of those services there as well, and we can get Matt's and probably put that in the show notes as well. But anyways, I think that can wrap it up this for the episode this week. So I think I'm going to go update and break my system because sometimes that just happens with these rolling releases. In the meantime, Bigpod, I'm certain that you're going to log back into the Cosmic session and find out that everything is just going to crash and burn. And Matt, hopefully, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed continue to work for you until I think it's July.
July,
Yep. Now I heard that you're going straight into another 2-year challenge. Can you give us a hint? Is it NixOS?
It's NixOS.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Nix. But don't tell anybody. I'm keeping it a secret.
Okay, I won't tell anybody if Bigpod doesn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
And you, the viewer, you're also not telling anybody, right?
It's actually on that laptop right now.
All right. I mean I've sat there. You got the YouTube page loaded, and you've got an HTOP session running the entire time. So I'm looking forward to see how long it takes until you start making a video on how to install and configure NixOS and get set up Flakes and Home Manager, have a fully reproducible system, and then eventually we see Matt OS. It's going to come out.
We'll see.
They've got instructions on how to set that up on the Nix manual. But anyways, guys, we're going to see you next week.
Goodbye.
Okay. And
Goodbye.
stopping.